Ordnance, my darling, ordnance, my dear.
I'm not saying it's a great job of the Army. I was just reminded by Stokey's story. Makes me think these outfits really get around.
There's an ordnance company assigned to every division, I noticed in here.
Must keep busy if they do all Ernie says. All that supply and repair.
Yeah, must seem like a real long war to them. Pushing and hauling and working their little machines.
It ain't them anymore, it's us.
You'll find an IQ far above the average for the Army.
It says here, IQ. What do they want that for?
Pardon me, but you four individuals are the boniest team of knuckleheads that ever interfered with my reading. By deciphering bits of printed English and groping through your little skulls, you've dug up a few facts about my specialty.
Your specialty, Sarge?
Yeah. Let an old teacher from the ordnance school take over before he goes nuts, will you?
Were you a teacher at Aberdeen? I know a guy got sent to Aberdeen. Did you know?
I got shipped out a year ago. What I want is for you philosophers to ask yourselves where you'd be without the Ordnance Department. This paratrooper here remembers a small arms section once gave him a reconditioned M1. Do you realize what that means? Ordnance had to drag those beat-up small arms back to that section. And that's not all they bring back. Why, the way guns and tanks and vehicles get slapped around, there's probably more soured ordnance men in evacuation sections just picking up after you than you think there are in the whole department. It's all right for the folks at home to produce all they can, but that's not enough. We have to salvage everything that still looks good, even if we have to crawl for it or go waiting for it. And if you're wondering how a grease monkey got this Bronze Star, sometime I'll tell you about hauling live ammunition away from a strafe train. That isn't my regular type of work, but we can't always be choosy, can we? Those things happen every day, same as towing jobs, like your affair with Rosalie. Sometimes, when a tank hollers for help, you can't soothe it just by picking it up out of the gutter. Maybe it needs a new engine. Well, a crew from Ordnance can get one out of a crate, bring it to you on a silver platter, and drop it right into your conked-out vehicle. Or suppose you've got a piece of artillery that won't go boom the way it should. Don't you know it's an artillery section that comes belting out in its little repair truck and does the doctoring? Anytime repairs can be made on the spot where the damage was done, the right section moves up and makes them. I was in a service section myself. I guess the job that interested me most was back when the tanks were having trouble with the hedgerows in Normandy. Somebody thought of having them chew their way through. So we got a lot of no-good obstacles the Krauts had sprinkled on the beaches and cut them up into teeth or knives or whatever you want to call them. Understand, this was no service section routine. We took our welding equipment and other things we needed out to the fields where the tanks were and sort of made things up as we went along. Anyhow, it worked. Before, when those tanks tried to take the hedgerows, they either stopped cold or tilted up so far the Krauts could tuck shells right under their little bottoms. But with the teeth on, they plowed through that snarl of foliage with hardly any bucking at all. That isn't all the ordnance did to those hedgerows either. We have ammunition among our problems. And sometimes we have to make it do things it wasn't designed for. In that case, the job was making bazooka shells go off on contact with shrubbery. Their fuses are supposed to hit a considerably harder surface before they'll function, but luckily for our side, there are men in ordnance who know plenty about fuses. When they got through, the tests worked out to everybody's satisfaction, and a lot of bazooka shells had a new experience. There's another job squads from Ordnance have that takes a knowledge of fuses, too. Before you can do it, you may have to dig a regulation 1 each hole, but it's more dramatic than digging a straddle trench because what you're digging for is an unexploded bomb. Getting down to it may be tough, and it may be ticklish, and when you get to the bomb, the idea is to extract the fuse before it extracts you. I imagine it has its element of suspense. Maybe I shouldn't have brought this operation up. There's almost sure to be some of your unlovable pushing and hauling involved in getting your find out of that hole and onto a truck. Then you have to take it to some spot on the landscape where it can be blown up without hurting anybody. But when it is blown up, you probably feel that getting it out of the way was a real friendly act. I swear, wherever you go, there's an ordnance team up to something. Why, once I came across a roadside sign, just like on US 1, advertising a tire checking station some ordnance guys had dreamed up. They'd go over any set of tires the soldier drove by on and see that they were getting the treatment tires should get. They really had the best interest of your tires at heart, too, which isn't hard to understand, because we're the guys who have to recondition them when they break down, if it can be done. And there's plenty of work on that job, believe you me. There are tire repair shops in every theater, some mobile, some regular plants, with their backyards full of messed up rubber. Inside, they'll give a tire any treatment that's good for it, from patching shrapnel holes to recapping. They can even go so far as to bake on a whole new tread. Making usable shoes out of old donuts no better than the one my kids were using for a swing when I left home.
Ernie's got something about a mobile tire repair company in here. And it ends with, the first sergeant is from Akron, of all places. He used to work for Firestone. I've been finding more square pegs and square holes lately.
Hey, Sergeant, what kind of whittling can they do to fit us into one of their holes?
They can use any shaped peg. I wasn't born in a welder's mask myself. I taught in a trade school, but there was plenty I didn't know.
I know, but we're not intellectuals like you.
Let's not be too modest, Bub. There's plenty of different kinds of jobs in all kinds of places. Take the big shops, way back in comparatively safe areas. They're set up in sheds, old factories, wherever the machinery can be planted and the work done. They can take on complete overhauls of practically anything you line troops use, in almost any quantity. Jobs the mobile companies can't handle. They only move when the war's gotten so far ahead as to be out of reach, so their equipment can be really heavy and elaborate. I saw one once in the hold of a ship, although I wouldn't have known that's where I was if they'd kept it dark until I got in. And the ship idea was so good, I hear they're setting them up that way in the Pacific, so the base shops can keep up with the island hoppers. Or maybe you'll turn up dealing out equipment somewhere. Of course, that takes pushing and hauling, but you ought to remember you'd have been fighting with your bare mitts if somebody else hadn't been pushing and hauling all this time. Think of all the ammunition you've used up. Why, in a single day, one infantry division can shoot up 1,000 tons. If you ever got sent on a detail to an ammunition supply point, I don't suppose you got very excited about stacks of ammunition ordnance crews had scattered all along the roadside. But there are stacks like that, big and small, scattered all over the world. It's been very lucky for you that there are. Like our friend Pyle says, it's not a dramatic job pushing ammunition around. The does in the middle of it get so fed up they can't appreciate it themselves. So I don't blame you for not giving it much thought. And another thing, maybe you've noticed something new or something different in your equipment now and then. Did you notice any new model tanks before you came back here? Did you know there's a 57-millimeter rifle that can be fired off the shoulder? Did you ever see a T-66 rocket launcher lay down a barrage? Who do you think develops all those ideas? Superman? Well, I guess I've given a hint that I come near admiring the Ordnance Department. You never can tell what time will do.
Sarge, wait a minute. A guy's got a right to think his outfit's big stuff. That's what we've been thinking about the outfits we're being yanked out of.
Your outfit, my outfit, they've all got their points. Who's winning the war? That debate is strictly for basic trainees.
You're a smart cookie. No, I mean it.
What happened you left Aberdeen?
They make little shifts. Besides, time goes mighty slow in a GI schoolroom. I get itchy feet every so often.
In these companies, you'll find men wearing sergeant stripes who, because of their age, don't have to be here at all. You'll find great soberness and sincerity, plus the normal satisfaction that comes from making things whole again, instead of destroying them.